Hi, and welcome to Hoffman's Hot Seat. I'm Tom Hoffman with One-to-One Media, coming to you today from the 2013 ForeSee Summit in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I'm joined today by ForeSee President and CEO Larry Freed. And today Larry and I will be talking about word-of-mouth index and how it can be applied by companies. Larry, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Welcome to Ann Arbor.
Thank you. It's great. So we're here at the University of Michigan, and we're in the Ross School of Business, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, I believe I was told that this building was created all from recycled materials. So
yes, a lot of focus on the green aspect as they built this a couple years ago.
Very interesting.
Phenomenal facility.
Oh, it is, yeah. So Larry, tell us a little bit about word-of-mouth index, how it came about, and what the rationale was for it.
So with Net Promoter Score, we've had an interesting relationship with it over the years. Probably 30 or 40% of our customers use it, and we help facilitate that. But we always felt that there was some challenges with it in terms of its accuracy and precision. And Net Promoter, in all honesty, has brought a lot of good things to companies. It's gotten them focused on the customer. It's gotten them budget to be focused on the customer. It's given the executives at a company, and it's usually driven from the top down, a rallying cry for their employees about let's make the experience better for customers. And to a great extent, what's resulted in that is a lot of low-hanging fruit issues have been resolved because they've gotten their employees more focused on the customer. So a lot of good things from Net Promoter. But it's about 10 years old now since it was introduced by Fred Reichheld. And over the years, we've done a lot of testing on it, and we saw some very serious flaws. We knew that throwing it away wasn't really a good solution. So we worked very hard with our research group to figure out, is there a way to extend Net Promoter to make it more useful, to give us a better metric, a better understanding of positive word of mouth and negative word of mouth. And so when you think about Net Promoter, the biggest challenge is that there's an assumption made that if you're not going to recommend something, a promoter, a 9 or 10, or in their scale, or a 7 and 8, which is passive, if you're less than that, you're called a detractor. But the question that's asked is not, are you a detractor? The question that's asked is, are you going to recommend us? And so it makes an assumption that if you're not going to recommend, that you're negative, you're bad, you're going to discourage others. And we tested that again and again and again, and every time we found that the people that were not going to recommend, a large percentage of them were very loyal, very good customers, but for whatever reason, they weren't going to recommend. They either didn't want to put their personal reputation on the line, it wasn't something in their personality, it was a product or something that they just didn't feel like recommending. Kind of a fun example is toilet paper. Most people are loyal to a brand of toilet paper in their household. Very few people recommend it to their friends or colleagues, right? So loyalty and satisfaction and recommendation and positive word of mouth are all great things. But when you use one metric as a proxy for something else, that's where you run into risk. So we did a lot of research with word of mouth. We actually went through 1.5 million survey responses across 275 companies to understand a better way to complement the likely to recommend question with a question that would help us get at negative word of mouth. And that was really the spawning of the word of mouth index.
Okay, thanks. So can you share with us a little bit about how, say, marketing leaders and contact center leaders might be able to apply word of mouth index for practical purposes?
So people are using word of mouth or using Net Promoter today for a lot of different things. One is a rallying cry. Two, companies are starting to focus on those people that are detractors and either improve the experience or reach out to them personally and say, hey, what can we do? The challenge is most of those people aren't actually detractors. So we asked the second question. So you can keep running the likely to recommend question. You keep going with the Net Promoter aspect of it. But really focus on the people that are the promoters there. We call it the true promoters, the 9s and 10s. Now let's ask a question about how likely to discourage someone else from doing business with this company. And the people that are very likely to discourage someone else from doing business with the company, those are the true detractors. So now if I want to reach out and talk to people, I don't have to talk to the large group of people that aren't recommending. I can talk to the people that are truly having the bad experiences, that are truly negative, that are not only going to have a bad experience, but they're going to tell others about it. That's where I want to focus. Those are the true detractors. So the first place is to give you more precision when you're reaching out to people and trying to correct their relationship with your company. The second is, if you're going to use this data to figure out what to fix, the reality is if you're looking at everyone that didn't recommend, you're not focusing on what's broken. because them not recommending isn't the issue. The issue is whether they're discouraging. And so by narrowing in and understanding truly those discouragers, we can really start to get our arms around what can we do to the experience to make this better. And it might be that maybe our marketing is wrong and we're bringing the wrong kinds of people to our organization. It might be that maybe the marketing is setting the wrong expectation, or it might be that the experience we're delivering isn't living up to it and it should. So now we can really hone in and focus on the area that's broken and fix it.
Okay, thanks. So as you know, customers are much more willing these days to share good experiences and bad experiences in social media with their friends and acquaintances. And I'm wondering though, for those customers that say have had a bad experience and from their standpoint they feel like they just want to wash their hands of the experience and not have to talk about the company or the experience itself, can you offer recommendations on how companies might be able to cull that information from those customers?
Yeah, so what's interesting is when you look at the people that aren't going to recommend, there's a large group of them are really satisfied and loyal. So here you're able to really cull into that information about those discouragers. You need to do it directly. There are some people that believe you can replace direct customer research with social media research, and I just don't believe it. And here's the challenge. When you're looking at the social media side of things, the only people that are speaking up on social media are those that are really, really, really excited and happy about something, or those that are really, really, really upset, right? No one ever posted a tweet and said, hey, I had a pretty good experience yesterday. Right. It was okay, I might do it again. So the silent majority is getting ignored. We still want to hear the feedback, whether it's on social or from wherever, because we can always learn from our customers of all sorts. But we want to make sure that we're setting our strategy and using that information to gain intelligence about making decisions for the greater good of our customer base, the full spectrum of it. And that's where we need the direct measurement of the customer experience across all of our customers, a representative audience across all of our customers. So we're big believers, and we have an enormous amount of data to back this up, that you need to talk direct to your customers in order to truly understand that customer experience. You can't just talk to the squeaky wheels, because they're only going to give you their perspective, not the perspective of the average person, that what we call the silent majority.
No, that's a good point. So can you also share with us examples of some of ForeSee's clients as to how they're applying word of mouth index?
Sure. So the first thing about word of mouth index, when we ran this data with 1.5 million survey respondents across 275 companies, the average overstatement of detractors was about 260%. In other words, people, when looking at just Net Promoter, had a number that was 260% larger in terms of identifying the detractors. When you looked at the true detractors, it was far, far, far less, right? So the way that companies are using it, our clients are using it, really in many cases as a companion to Net Promoter. Hey, we're measuring Net Promoter, now let's measure word of mouth, positive word of mouth and negative word of mouth, to really better understand how we're doing it and what kind of job we're doing. So that's the first step. In some cases, one of the beauties of Net Promoter was it was one number. To be honest with you, I'm not a fan of one number, because the relationships we have with our customers are far too complex. But if you need one number as a rallying cry for an organization, let's get a number that's going to show the direction of the organization, the financial relationship. So some folks are using it to be that one number that they can talk about internally in the company. Some folks are using it to really identify who those true detractors are, and they can figure out what's causing it. What's causing people to not only have a bad experience, but want to communicate that bad experience to others. Right. And when you can hone in on that, boy, you can make a radical difference to your business very, very quickly. The success of any one business compared to its competitors is going to be those that make the investments in the right area, that get the biggest return on that investment. And when you think about that, it obviously makes sense, right? We're in such a competitive landscape. So if I can use word of mouth index and satisfaction measurement and this system of metrics to really understand where my problems are, then I can apply my resources the right way. I'm going to get the biggest return on those improvements in terms of improving the experience and the financial outcomes I'm looking for, and I'm going to win competitively. I think it's a game changer.
You had mentioned in your last response that you're not a big fan of a single metric. And I'm wondering, from your experiences with clients, what are some of the ways in which word of mouth index might be blended with other metrics? What are some of the other metrics they might be applying?
So when you think about it, there's three things that are going to really drive a business's success. When we think about the number one challenge for every business is increasing the velocity of revenue growth. And those three things are, I got to keep my customers, I got to sell more to my existing customers, and I got to acquire new customers. And when you look at the acquisition, there's two ways to acquire new customers. One is through marketing. I bring people to the front door, so to speak, maybe to the website, but bring them to my business, right? Through marketing. And then I try to convert them. The other way is they come through word of mouth. So the first thing is when you step back and you look at most businesses today, while word of mouth is popular, word of mouth is growing, it has a bigger impact today than it ever did. In most cases, it's not accounting for most of the revenue growth. Most of the revenue growth is coming from either is a combination of keeping my customers and selling more. Let's take Google, for example. I haven't recommended Google to any of my friends or colleagues lately, because you know what? They all know Google, right? I haven't told people, hey, go check out McDonald's for a great quick meal, right? But back in the 70s, actually, when McDonald's was going through their expansion, people were recommending it. I remember the first McDonald's I went to in the mid-70s in Southfield, Michigan, and it was a big deal, right? This was a new concept, so people talked about it, but they're not anymore. So what's interesting is, and it's a little bit of stepping back and looking at the basics. If you look at these ways to accelerate the velocity of revenue growth, you can take almost any company and see how their strategy has changed over the years as they've worked to maintain their customers, they've worked to either sell them more, or they've worked to acquire new ones through marketing and word of mouth. McDonald's, as an example, for the younger audience out there, don't remember a time before Egg McMuffins, but there was, right? That was a big upsell for them. They said, we're going to expand in the breakfast market. And that was huge, huge revenue growth. So companies will adapt and change their style, but word of mouth is going to account for some of the growth, but it's a relatively small amount. So you really got to understand that aspect of it. And then companies are going to use it to better understand that. So when we think about this system of metrics, if you step back and say, what do I need to have happen in order to keep my customers? Well, they've got to have a great experience. What do I need to do to sell more to my customers? They better have a great experience with their existing relationship, or they're not going to buy more from me.
Sure.
And when I get them to show up at my door, either through social word of mouth or any kind of word of mouth, or through marketing, how am I going to convert them to a customer? I better deliver a great experience. So the driver of all of these, we call them outcomes, right? Retention, upsell, and conversion of new customers are all outcomes of a great experience. So you got to measure the satisfaction people are having with the experience. You want to measure you want to have a metric that gets to, am I keeping my customers? You want to have a metric that gets to, am I selling more to my existing customers? And then you want to get to a metric on the conversion side. How am I converting my customers? What percentage of the folks that are coming through word of mouth am I converting? What percentage of the folks that are coming through marketing am I converting? We think those are the system of metrics you need to develop as an organization to truly give you the ability to use analytics for a competitive advantage.
Okay. Well, Larry, thanks so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's great talking with you.
You too.